which is actually a big problem now. So I'm so happy that we have this conversation, and to echo Professor Nyuera's statement, the KCA University, I think he said when others are seated, KCA is standing, and he said when the others are sleeping, KCA is awake. But me, I'm actually going to put it this way. KCA University is like one of our presidents said, a working nation. Eh? I actually want to say that KCA is a working university. And that's why today, to illustrate that, I decided, you know what? I'm not going to wear a tie today because I'm going to illustrate that KCA University is a working university. So I wish now actually to introduce the keynote speaker, actually from the State Department of Education. And I remember we have actually heard that for some time, even when we were talking about the CBC, it was in this hall. We are somebody from the Department of Education. We always do that. That's a wonderful partnership. Mrs. Karaoke, we are happy to have you today. And I want to assure you that these conversations we have, they are not just going to remain here, but they are actually going to continue. Now, we have a very, very clear message from the CEO and the Vice Chancellor of KCA University that what we do as a university is not just to add value to the university, but to add value to our society, our Kenya, including making sure that the students we produce are those ones who are actually going to make a difference in the society. Already has had conversations about our students getting involved in SMEs, getting finances, and he has already begun talking about that with the CPA Jenga. Those are really, really wonderful conversations. And so I actually want to now invite the keynote speaker so that they can talk to us. Thank you very much.
Good morning. So Mrs. Karaoke is my name. Let me adjust it. I'm still down there. So Mrs. Karaoke is my name from the Directorate of Higher Education. And I'm happy, very, very happy to be here. Actually, when he was talking of value addition, I was trying to wonder what value is there any value addition in me? And before I talk or I give the keynote, which I'm supposed to be giving on behalf of my director, I'll take you back. I'm actually a product of Professor Ngige. We used to call him Dr. Ngige. No, Dr. Kangege at that time. So he has seen me through 2 degrees and started me off with the 3rd degree. I'm actually a student of educational research and evaluation. So when you talk about research, he's taken me in very many units, qualitative and quantitative. And as I was seated there, I remembered when I was out for TP, I used to live, I think, in Ongata Rongai. I was in Kwea. And the only school that I got teaching practice was somewhere called Ruthimitu High School. And I went and told, I think Professor Carol, yeah, I told them with Dr. Kangede, that is too far. And Professor Ngige asked me, far from what? Are there students there? I said yes. So he told me, wake up in the morning, go and teach get back to Rongai in the evening and wake up the next morning and teach. And I taught. Now, the funny thing is, when I went that end, I found Darius Mogaka there. So he was my head of department, English. And once I was through, I got employed by TSC. And I kept saying, I'm not teaching, but now you're employed by TSC, and you don't want to be a teacher. You know, that small child mentality. And today, I work under him. He's actually the Director Higher Education, where I am serving. Those were 29 years back. So I have taught in high school, taught in technical. I've taught in Masai Technical, KTTC, went to TVET office, and I felt, now let me move to university. What was university education, now higher education. So I was trying to see, have I had any value added? I thank you, Professor Kang'ethe, and I feel humbled to be here. So I am here representing the Director, Higher Education, and along with me is Dr. Kingori, and I am going to read the keynote on behalf of the Director, Higher Education. He would have liked to be here, but he had to be somewhere else with the task force. So, the Vice Chancellor, KCA University, Deputy Vice Chancellors, distinguished educationists, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me much pleasure to participate in the honorable forum which has brought together great minds to discuss great academic discourse. The Directorate of Higher Education continues to acknowledge the pivotal roles played by higher education institutions in our country. These include education in society. To begin with, over the years, education has emerged as one of the most indispensable human activities, given that it strengthens the potential of any individual to model and function effectively in their environment, hence achieving sustainable use of resources. Indeed, higher education plays a pioneering role in addressing problems of poverty, social disorganization, unemployment, hunger, illiteracy, amongst many other societal related problems. It is agreeable to remark that stronger education systems play an essential role in the sustainability of any country's development through the creation of a sufficient pool of human capital that advances literacy levels and paves way for superior entrepreneurial skills. This line of thought is indeed a precursor to the suggestion that strong education systems are key to developing Kenya's innovation-led growth through the enhancement of graduates' practical solving capabilities and competencies. Through enhanced academia, industry collaboration, partnerships and linkages, Kenya stands a higher chance to argue for her policy-making mechanisms while boosting the possibility of turning her economy into a knowledge-based one as envisaged in Vision 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's journey to attaining the envisioned globally competitive and newly industrialized middle-income status has undoubtedly placed the enormous task to providing human capital with the requisite skills and technological know-how in the hands of higher education sector. In this regard, university education has to play a cardinal role in the production of graduates who are equipped with skills and technical training that is responsive to the labor market demands. Kenya, on her part, has undertaken a paradigm shift from 844 system to education to a skill-based system, SBS, which is a pedagogy that aims to build the skills of students who have acquired knowledge through classroom lectures, while encouraging them to try out those concepts to strengthen the learning process. SBL, world over, is associated with numerous benefits. For instance, skills development programs prepare learners for the future by helping them acquire employable skills. Skill-based training enhances academic strength of weak learners. SBL enhances development of communication and networking skills, and also gives students better understanding of different career options, and normally helps identify and nurture students' talents. Correspondingly, many development players and economic stakeholders have categorically affirmed the critical role of higher education inter alia in promotion of advanced literacy, technical and technological levels, and in the same breath, socio-economic development. In unison, stronger education systems, research and training, as well as scientific and technological advancement form the pedestal upon which countries build their socio-economic development, thus guaranteeing their citizenry, socio-economic stability, peace, and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Economic Forum 2017 observes that Kenya, just like other developing countries, is underrepresented globally in terms of production of highly skilled human resources in the fields of basic sciences, technology, and innovation, enhancement of teaching, training, research, and development, establishment of advanced research and innovation in higher education. Space. The Global Human Capital Index, GHCI, shows that Kenya was ranked position 102 globally with 59.5% on a scale of 0 to 100, with the leading nation as Norway with 77.12%. Nonetheless, Kenya has made a notable step in making her education system responsive to the global demands of the 21st century by understanding a paradigm shift from her traditional curriculum to competency-based curriculum, CBC. CBC is globally associated with better acquisition of skills and competencies, thereby improving the employability of graduates who are products of such a system. Ladies and gentlemen, CBL is a framework for where learners solve real-world challenges. It is a collaborative and hands-on and calls for all participants, that is students, teachers, families, and community members, to identify big ideas, ask good questions, discover and solve challenges, and gain in-depth subject area knowledge. Hence, it is a means to developing the 21st century skills which allow students to share their thoughts with the world. CBL as a pedagogical approach is organized into 3 phases. Firstly, engagement, which is a process of essential questioning where learners move from abstract big idea to a concrete and actionable challenge. Secondly, investigation, where all learners plan and participate in a journey that builds the foundation for solutions and addresses academia requirements. Finally, evidence-based solutions are developed, implemented with an authentic audience, and evaluated based on results. CBL similarly operates on a flexible frame which provides for 1. A flexible and a customized model that may be implemented as a guiding pedagogy which can be integrated with other progressive approaches to learning. 2. A scalable model which has multiple points of entry with room for students to start small and build big. A free and open system with no proprietary ideas, products, or subscriptions. a process which places all learners in charge and responsible for their learning, a focus on global ideas, meaningful challenges, and development of local and age-appropriate solutions. It is an authentic relationship between academic disciplines and the real-world experience, and it is also a framework to develop 21st century skills. It is purposeful for the use of technology for researching, analyzing, collaborating, networking, communicating, publishing, and reflecting. Indeed, CBL presents students with authentic learning opportunities to create, co-create, and give ideas, concepts, and relationships, thus resulting in a generation of evidence-based solutions for problems, challenges, and projects. Ladies and gentlemen, the trend gaining currency across the world is that of research and development as an enabler to the nation to not only generate new knowledge, but also to enable them attain massive economic metamorphoses. Institutions of higher learning and research institutions in our country have gained considerable momentum as engines for economic growth through the creation of new products, interventions, and innovations. Academic research, therefore, ought to be seen as a key driver of the economy on the basis of patents, new commercial products, tax revenues, and royalties generated. Globally, forces such as the growth of the knowledge economy and recognition of the important role of higher education in national development has put higher education systems worldwide under tremendous pressure to keep abreast with research, technological, and innovation trends globally. Ladies and gentlemen, inference from the foregoing proposition pinpoints to the fact that sustainable economic growth at both micro and macro levels cannot be achieved when significant portions of the younger population are not able to learn and scale up their competencies and skills to tertiary and university levels. Ladies and gentlemen, sub-Saharan Africa, Kenya included, has a role to play and a catch-up game at all levels of training. This view is predicted on the basis that she is caught in a mix-up of high expectations, diminishing resources, minimal literacy, a skill deficient, and a competitive environment with a steady loss of her skilled human capital to the developed world. The common denominator that cuts across the entire spectrum of views held by researchers, scholars, industrialists, and policymakers is that investment in open learning is a promising and practical strategy to address the challenge of widening access to relevant and quality higher education. This premise is not just plausible in emerging economies like Kenya, but also in the developed nations where it has been credited with immense gains to those seeking access to relevant and quality higher education. Kenyan universities have over the years given great prominence to development and enhancement of infrastructure as a key enabler to access higher education. However, the unveiling of the National Open University of Kenya as a key in the higher education ecosystem will ultimately herald a key paradigm shift from the traditional classroom setup to an ICT-propelled teacher-learner interactive learning environment. This will allow students of all ages return to school at their best convenience and in turn take care of sustainable development goal number 4, which calls for inclusive and equitable quality education that promotes lifelong opportunities for all. Ladies and gentlemen, it is nevertheless commendable to observe that our universities continue to emphasize their role in shaping future technology by being test beds from interventions, innovations, and educating future generations. In this way, institutions of higher education have to equip future professionals with skills such as creativity, innovation, and problem-solving in readiness for opportunities that will arise from the fourth industrial revolution. In conclusion, the world has become a global village, and our universities have to take the rightful position in ushering in the Industry 4.0, which is the next phase in the digitalization of the manufacturing sector that will be given by the disruptive trends, including the rise of data and connectivity, analytics, human-machine interactions, and improvements in robotics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give this wonderful lady a better round of applause? No, she deserves better than that. Let's give a better round of applause, please. Thank you. We want to celebrate her the KCA University way, yeah? And check what Prof. Damiana will be doing. Let's mold the flowers. Let's mold the flowers for Madam Karaoke. Let's mold these flowers, mold them nicely, mold them nicely. Yeah, let's give her the flowers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for delivering such a great, speech, even as you were walking through. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to move to the next level, but then allow me, before we go into the panel discussion, one more time we want to welcome our online viewers, and I want to mention that one of our panelists is joining us live and will be able to engage, and we want to be sure that Dr. Korir is in. The technical team, just make sure that she's already in. Before we move, allow me, with lots of humility, Prof. Bagakas, as sitting in for our Vice Chancellor and CEO, to invite a gentleman just to make a brief. This is the CEO of K Unity Sacco and his CPA, Simon Njenga, to touch just on a brief remarks as we usher in the panelists to come upstage. It is very, very important that we get the industry experience. Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together for CPA Simon Njenga, the CEO, K Unity Sacco. Karibu. Thank you very
much. Professor Joshua Bagaka, other professors in the room, doctors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. I feel humbled and honored today, stand in front of my professors. And my name is Simon Njenga. I also happen to be a product of KCA. So, in KCA is a place that I do really have a lot of respect, because among the 3 universities that have been going or have attended, KCA started being unique, because there is what we call student-lecturer relationship, which is very close, and you get to run and study a lot. In terms of the challenges-based running, when you are picked as an institution that would collaborate with KCA, it is indeed a great honor to K Unity, and K Unity is a SACCO, one of the Tier 1 SACCO in this country. We have 16 branches now in the country. The 17th one is the diaspora, with over 100,000 membership. And we are happy because the areas that were addressed by the students in KCA, we indeed went ahead and acted on them. You remember when Professor Moshiri, Professor Dr. Ibrahim Rotich, and the others, when it was presented there, and we validated it, and we have effected and implemented some of the areas that were touched. For instance, we didn't have the recovery department, and our model of business, we are a financial institution that extend credit to masses in this country, and SMEs, institutions. We did not have the recovery department that time, and we do a lot of unsecured facilities, and very few institutions are doing that. Up to $1 million shillings, we give it unsecured and addressing the needs of most of the, especially the youth. And as Professor Ngigi has mentioned it in terms of the innovation, we are ready to fund and to support those ones, the students who come up with great ideas, because we fund also the ideas, not what have worked, but what can work. So we are ready for that, and when we form that innovation incubation teams on innovation, we are going to ahead and look at which ideas can be viable, and we'll be willing to partner with KCA. The other bit, we also, when the study was conducted, we didn't have, it was raised that our data was not that good, and we are doing what we call the data cleanup with a time frame of completing it by the end of this quarter, by the end of March. We have a team that is working on it, and apart from that, we also saw the need from the team that also, from the group that also did the research on us, of having an upgrade of our system, and we have put that one in place, and by the mid this year, we will have an upgraded system. So what we are doing here in KCA is not in vain. It's going to support and of great importance to most of the institutions, and we are ready even for the university to conduct even more research in our institution on various areas, and we are willing and ready to work with KCA. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, CP Njenga. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. We are humbled even to note that you are our alumnus. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I also want to recognize Florence Nganga, who is the credit manager at K Unity Sacco. She gave company to her boss, and it is important to note that she's also our alumnus. Can we give a round of applause? Thank you. I also want to recognize Dr. Kingori from the State Department of Higher Education, who also gave company to Madam Kariuki, who has given a wonderful speech here. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Thank you very much. Please feel warm while you are at KCA University. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now straight to business, and we want to invite our panelists. I want to introduce a gentleman who is a senior lecturer, a director in the Directorate of Innovation and Incubation and Linkages at KCA University. This gentleman is a senior lecturer at the university. He holds PhD in entrepreneurship from Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, and teaches a raft of courses, particularly in new venture development, enterprise culture and climate, and commercialization of innovations. Over the last decade, he has actually worked on curriculum development initiatives that have actually integrated entrepreneurship and innovation with other specializations such as finance, marketing, and management. So these have included designing of a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship at KCA University, and has worked on a number of initiatives to encourage entrepreneurial culture among KCA University students. The gentleman is currently has current research focus areas on understanding the underlying issues in professionalizing family-owned businesses in Kenya, and how dynamic capabilities and organizational agility facilitates sustained competitive advantage, and how organization ecosystem facilitates company and industry renewal. He has published numerous articles in scholarly journals. And ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than Dr. Abraham Rotich. Can we put our hands together? Dr. Rotich, kindly occupy your space upstage. Ladies and gentlemen, I also want to introduce a gentleman who is an associate professor and the director quality assurance at KCA University. He is a graduate of Weatherhead School of Management, Case Western Reserve University, Ohio, USA, and alumnus of DAD, International Dean's Leadership Course. He holds a Doctor of Management from Weatherhead School of Management, Master of Science in Statistics, and Bachelor of Education degree, both from Egerton University in Kenya. At Weatherhead School of Management, he was a DM scholar and won Michel and Moses Scholarship. This gentleman has vast experience in Kenyan basic, tertiary, and university education, having started his career as a graduate teacher under the Teachers Service Commission. He has been able to commission many things, led the collaboration and partnership with the Commission for University Education, has been able to serve at the board of CASNEB, and has been able to supervise many students from University of Botswana. This gentleman continues to be involved in research and scholarship, and he has organized and convened several conferences that have brought together industry players. His research areas are entrepreneurship, small business management, and youth engagement with Kenyan cooperatives. He has supervised many graduates, both at undergraduate and at postgraduate level. His CV is very long, and if I continue, then that is the business we will be doing today. But I want to mention that he's the one of the founding editors of KCA University Journal of Business Management, among many other publications that he has been able to do. This gentleman is a member of many bodies. One of them is the Strategic Management Society, Africa Academy of Management, American Education Research Association, and his research interest focus really, as I've indicated earlier, are anchored on entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Renson Mushiri. Let's put our hands together for Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, who is an associate professor of geoinformatics at the Department of Software Development and Information Systems in the School of Technology. He holds Bachelor of Science in Surveying and Photogrammetry from the University of Nairobi, a Master of Science in Geoinformatics from ITC, University of Twente in Enschede and the Netherlands, Netherlands, and has a Doctor of Philosophy from Utrecht University, also in the Netherlands. His area of research is in information visualization, visual analytics, and geographical information systems. He has professional membership in Association of Computing Machinery, SCM, Geospatial Society of Kenya, Association of Computing Practitioners in Kenya, and the Geovisual Analytics chapter of the Commission of the International Cartography Commission, ICA. This CV is way too long. And again, we might need to leave here on Sabbath, as Professor Onywera rightly put it. Allow me to stop there, ladies and gentlemen, but to welcome Professor Patrick Ogao. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce our last panelist, who is joining us virtually. This is a lady whose area is in agricultural economics with years of experience in agri-food research. Has done research examinations in the impact of the new emerging technologies on the agricultural sector. Second one is food supply chain to come up with ways to reduce poverty and hunger. And third, food security, its various dimensions and how it is measured. Now, her research interest is in agricultural labor, the social and economic issues surrounding the uptake of technologies in agriculture, economic impact of robotization, productivity, employment, and competitiveness. She has served or serves in the departments of Lincoln Economics and Finance, research group member, UNESCO as a chair member, digitalization committee. She is a holder of PhD in economics from the University of Lincoln, MSc Agricultural Economics, University of Reading, BSc in Agribusiness Management from Egerton University. Has won many awards, among them Research Student of the Year Award in 2019, Visiting Fellow, Cumberland Lodge, Best Paper Presentation, a grant from the UK, Kenya, South Africa, trilateral workshop, and many, many others. As I've indicated, that it is going to be a long haul. But I want to mention that she focuses on consultancy for projects on logistics, on cold chain future fleets. Ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together for Dr. Lillian Korir, who is joining us virtually. Let's put our hands together for Dr. Lillian Korir one more time. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to us our moderator today, a gentleman who is an expert in finance and is a lecturer at KCA University, financial specialist and business strategist who is responsible for planning, organizing, and execution of work-related teaching, research, consultancies, and that add value to the students, researchers, and firms. This gentleman has served the university in different capacities at management level. And ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for CPA Dominic Ojuang, who is going to be our moderator. Let's continue appreciating Dominic Ojuang. Thank you very much, Dominic. At this level, I want to step down when my senior is taking charge. Over to you, Dominic.
Thank you, Rod, for that, professors and Dr. Rotich. Morning. Are you feeling this morning? Good, okay, thank you. We just want to correct one thing, that Dr. Lillian Korir is transiting, so there could be some gaps in terms of getting hold of her. But if we do that, then we'll basically invite her to join us. So you'll bear with us because of the travel arrangements. But in case we get hold of her, then we'll be able to invite her to speak to us. So thank you very much. I think you must be wondering what's happening about challenge-based learning. Unfortunately, we are privileged to have our team who have spent quite a bit of time, I think almost 6 months now, working on a wonderful project on challenge-based learning. And the team leader for this project has been one of us, that is Dr. Abraham Rotich. So, Dr. Abraham Rotich, I want to give you the first opportunity to speak about what you have been doing in this project, who have been the actors, what is it about, just so that every one of us can be able to be at the same level in terms of what we have done in the area of challenge-based learning. So welcome, Dr. Rotich.
Thank you. So we have been implementing this challenge-based learning project for the last 6 months. That was from May 2022 up to December last year. The project has been, we have been doing it in collaboration with the University of Lincoln, Challenge-based learning is a learning arrangement where instead of a lecturer giving students an academic assignment, we give them real challenges in the community. Now, challenge-based learning is a variant of action-based learning. We have many action-based learning approaches. We have project-based learning, we have game-based learning, we have problem-based learning, and now we have challenge-based learning. Challenge-based learning originated actually in 2008 from Apple. I hope you all know the big computer company Apple in the US. So they had a project called Tomorrow's Classroom Today, and that's where challenge-based learning came. So when we look at challenge-based learning, there's a lot of reasons why we really require challenge-based learning. I think most of us here in this room are lecturers, and most lecturers have been caught napping in the wake of advances in information technology. Nowadays, you give an assignment, and the students will give you even wonder what to subtract, because they can get all the information at their fingertips. Actually, in KCA here, quite a number of our lecturers actually pride themselves that they actually subject the assignments to Turnitin so that they can check the level of originality. However, that is now history. It's no longer working. There is actually a software called ChatGPT, which actually you give a student can plagiarize 100%, but with the help of that software, that student can actually show that it's a very original with maybe 1 or 2% plagiarism rate. So such issues now, like those ones, are the ones now which make the case for challenge-based learning real. However, in 2019, a study by CBS International, which is a British organization, actually found out that nearly half of Kenyan graduates, nearly half of Kenyan employers were dissatisfied with the fresh graduates coming out from university. In short, they were not employable. Last year, I went for a conference with Dr. Mwendia at Safaricom, and the person who was speaking there said Safaricom spends on average Kenya shillings, 800,000 shillings per graduate to train them to become job ready. So this thing where graduates are, are coming out of universities and are coming out as unemployable is one of the things which triggered this particular study. And we found out that we can actually do much better here at KCA University to look at new ways of helping graduates become better. Now, we have been talking about having industry academia linkages. Challenge-based learning extends that industry academia linkages to have industry, academia, and community linkages, because now the students will be working given problems, real problems, like we were given in K-Unity Circle and Makueni County government. So it improves the linkages not only with the industry, but with the community, and places students at the center of problem solving. Mostly challenge-based learning targets activities or problems related to community, especially SDGs, and so that's the nature of what we have been trying to do. Globally, in a number of countries, those of you who follow global news, you know that in Harvard University, they have what's called the Harvard Consulting. Harvard Consulting is an arm created by Harvard University, where students are given real consulting assignments to do when they are still in the university. And the results are there. They are some of the most highly paid MBA graduates in the world. The most highly paid MBA graduates from the world are from Harvard University. And I think that's also an example of challenge-based learning. So we have been implementing this project, and I'm very glad you heard from the CEO himself. Our students were given the challenge, and they gave solutions, some of which they considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ratich. But just a bit to dig in this, who are the actors? Because I think that's important perspective for the audience to feel who were the actors in this project, who played what role at this level before we can proceed.
Yes, so this project, was having around 5 partners. One, of course, we have KCA here at the faculty. The project was implemented at the School of Technology, specifically the MSc Data Analytics program. And so the class where the unit was implemented was a class called Data Visualization Architecture, which was taught by Professor Ogao. And then we had two organizations which participated, K-Unity, SACO, and we had Makueni County Government. For very good reasons. One, Makueni County Government was led by a professor. And actually it said when the letter landed on his desk, he acted within 1 hour. And within 2 hours, we were called that the Makueni government is ready to work with KCA on that particular project. And also we had Kiambu Unity Finance. Then we had University of Lincoln. University of Lincoln are the ones who provided us the grant to be able to undertake the project.
Thank you very much for that explanation. You notice that Professor Gao was involved in this project, and he was the one who was doing really the action-based learning. So, Professor Gao, can you share with us, is this the first time you got to hear about challenge-based learning, or you had some previous exposure? And how did that exposure prepare you to participate in this project?
Okay, thank you very much for that. I was the guinea pig in this project for some reason. I don't know whether they picked Ogao or it was a unit. But anyway, it was a big pleasure to be part of it. Quite some years back, when I was doing my postdoc, that was in University of Groningen in the Netherlands, I was involved with a group, software architecture group. And they were actually practicing some aspect of CBL, and for some good reasons. If you think of the way we develop software, it's normally a collaborative kind of engagement. And at times, there's geography involved, cultures involved. So you'll find there's a team in the US, there's a team in Africa, there's another team in Japan, you know. So the idea is they wanted to have the students be exposed to that experience before they get out into the field. So there was a big company involved, so that's KPN, equivalent of Safaricom in Kenya. And then there was one university in Canada, and then 2 universities in Netherlands. So they get a challenge from KPN, a software development challenge, and then they have to come up with a solution to it. So it's a real problem that at the end of the day, of course, will add value to KPN, the telecom company. And they have to deliver within a given period of time, you know. So it's a real problem, collaboration, so very similar to CBL. So I wasn't part of the team, but I was kind of overseeing, as part of my postdoc role, just overseeing how the students work in groups and chipping in just to guide them. There's group dynamics, there are timelines, and much more actually what you find in the real world. So I think it's because of that, because I had talked to Mushiri and Rotich before we had the CBL project, and I think it's on that basis they thought maybe I should be part of the piloting bit. Visual analytics is a very few people understand information visualization, let alone visual analytics. So it's a very emerging field in data analytics. So students actually are trying to work with big data. So big data is one of the emerging technologies. We have artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and IoTs and all that. So it's really an emerging area. Students work with algorithms, and visualization actually is one of the assisting tools that helps them to gain insight into massive data sets. So I think it's on the basis of my experience rather than the unit I teach that I was picked to be part of this project. Yeah.
Yes, so here is where you have the experience. At least you've got in touch with the CBL during your postdoc. And how did that help you to prepare your class? Because ordinarily, the students are used to kind of a process that they have been using before. These are students who have gone through undergraduate program, and they're used to already, or we can say addicted to a given pattern of learning or a way of learning. Then you come in and say, look guys, it's not going to be the usual case. How did you manage that? How did you prepare them?
Okay. Yeah, so I think Professor Ngigi talked a bit about the teacher-centered kind of learning, and our guest of honor also gave some good detail about CBL. So they're very different. Teacher-centered, of course, the teacher is a focal point. So all students are looking at the teacher for knowledge. So it's either knowledge flowing to the teacher, to the students, or the source of knowledge. Students listen, they sit and listen. There's very little collaboration. If you think of the student amongst themselves, there's very little collaboration. Now comes CBL. Now CBL is a collaborative learning experience where there's a third party actually coming in. If you think of the stakeholders, so we have the students, we have the facilitators, that's the lecturers, and we have the industry, so the external, the third party coming in. Again, that's new to the students. And then we are dealing with a real world challenge. So it's a real problem in the industry. And they work in teams, and then after that, there is the dissemination. So it has to be disseminated. And actually, that's a very interesting bit. We are used to, in academia, we're used to publications, you know, maybe attending workshops and all that. But this is a situation where actually the dissemination should even reach the, you know, not really people in academia or scientists, but the mamambogas there. But you have to communicate to them the results of the challenge. So it's a totally new experience to most of the students. You have to prepare them for that. So most important thing is, again, to explain to them what CBL is all about. Take them through the different stages, the ideation stage, rather the engage, the investigation stage, and the action stage. You know, that means they'll get a big idea from the industry, and then they have to get a challenge out of it. Work on that challenge through guiding activities, guiding questions, synthesize all the resources, analyze, and then implement. Actually, in the implementation, again, you have to tell them that they'll come up with a variety of options. So they're going to evaluate all the options and pick on one, implement it, and then dissemination. So you basically have to take them through all those stages. Another interesting thing is students are very much concerned about the teaching part. So how is teaching going to happen here? You know, we have these learning outcomes we have to achieve. How are you going to assess us? So you have to take them through all that. I did it not in one lecture, I did it twice, thrice, actually throughout the entire process. You have to keep on hammering that to them. So it's about mind shift from what they're used to this new form of learning. But again, it's in terms of mind shift, remember, I also have to go through that as a facilitator. So in my case, we had, actually there was a workshop, all staff in the university were invited for that workshop. And then after the workshop, we kept on at every stage of engage, of investigation, of action. We could meet in our group, KCA, with the University of Lincoln team, actually throughout the entire period of implementation. And then there's the industry also, so you have to prepare the industry for this. I mean, again, the industry, most of our industry are not used to working with students in this way. We normally just talk about attachment, internship, and all that. But this is a case where we are delivering a course and we are working together with them from beginning to the end. So mind shift, of course, in all those areas, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Some students picked it very fast. I remember 4 weeks before the exam, I remember one of the students being very honest and saying, actually, I'm lost. I don't know what we are doing, you know. So it wasn't easy, but that was the experience. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll see the output at the end, so we will ask later on so that you see the output of Professor Gao from that, the challenge-based learning. I'm now privileged to ask my professor, currently is my professor. So, Professor, you'll forgive me, Professor Muchiri, to ask you a question, but it's okay for your students to do that. So, Professor Muchiri, you worked in this project with Dr. Muchiri, Dr. Rotich very closely. What do you see from your perspective and experience in this project? What do you see as the possible challenges and opportunities that are going to be useful in mainstreaming challenge-based learning, not only at institutional level, but also at the country level? So some possible challenges or opportunities, and how do we overcome the challenges, or how do we exploit those opportunities to mainstream challenge-based learning at our institution, Case University, and also at the country level? Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. When we think about challenge-based learning, we are moving away, as Professor Gigi was trying to explain, from, I normally say this, the fountain of knowledge. You know that? So where it is dripping down, and you guys are down here receiving the knowledge. And we are moving towards co-creation of knowledge. And that paradigm shift is not an easy one, as Professor Ogao was trying to explain, because our students have been brought up in a place where they know the teacher is the one who knows everything. And right from their primary school, secondary school, to high school. But I like what Professor Gige said, that we need to move this debate right from the bottom up, and so that the primary school children are also learning. And that is why the CBC is quite interesting and quite an interesting model. Now, the challenge is when you think about that we are moving from, we are having a paradigm shift. And a paradigm means that we are moving our frames of reference from where we used to be to seeing as a lecturer, as a professor, as a source of knowledge, to a place where you have to have some kind of horizontal arrangement where all of us are kind of equal. I'm a facilitator. So, and one of the things that I've noticed is, even myself and with my colleagues, is that movement. You still will find yourself getting caught up in dominating the debate, if it is in the class, and also the bit, actually the one that is quite tough, is coming up with the activities, especially when Professor Ogao talked about the, getting the challenge. You know, there are external people, there is the industry, because the challenge is coming from the industry. We call that the problem owner. So when you bring in a problem owner, and you're trying now to, and also they don't understand the whole concept of challenge-based learning, and then you're telling them that you want them to give us a problem, to give you a problem which you will work with students, or the students will work on to provide a solution, which they can implement. And of course, you know, the kind of mentality our industry have about our students. So it is like we have to have a shift in every sphere, from the student, the lecturer, to the industry, to be able to create a framework where we will be able to work together. The other challenge is actually the collaboration framework. How do we create a collaboration framework so that we are able, to partner with the industry without necessarily, and I thank Simon for taking time and being with us, but you realize that challenge-based learning requires a bit of time. He had to sit with the students, and they have to ask him questions, and he has to explain the problem. And the students, after explaining the whole thing, it's very unstructured. It doesn't have a definite solution, so it's not like what are the advantages and disadvantages. It's like he's throwing out the problem there. And as he mentioned, the data is very unstructured. There is no organization. So it's up to the students now to start making sense of what the problem owner is saying, question him, and be able to identify where the challenge is. That process is quite challenging. So there is a challenge of having a conceptual, a framework, collaboration framework. There's a problem of having a mindset shift in terms of how we view the whole thing of learning. And I'm happy to report that in KCA we are having this debate because we are having this project. We have got another project. We are working with the British Council on similar arrangements. So that is one. Where are the opportunities? The opportunities is that you got the students now learn. And for the professor since he's here, what is the basis of this learning methodology is founded in the socio-cognitive career theory and also the experiential learning theory. I think when I mentioned that, Professor Caroline over there connects very well, and I know Dr. Gashegi and others, Professor Bagakas too. So it is founded there. But now, the movement is that we have now to create time also within the classroom. When I'm preparing that course outline, how do I incorporate these activities? And sometimes there is some uncertainties in terms of the person. I'm dealing with an external factor, which is the industry. So how am I able to align all this into this learning process? That is where the challenge is. But it can still be surmounted. And one of the things is the university itself reaching out and creating the connections. As you notice, the people we worked with were people who are connected to the university. Simon, an alumni, and even the guys from Kitui, we had 5 alumni of KCA University who were there, who introduced us to the CEC. So a plan, the planning itself is not easy. Coming up with a set of activities, coming up with those questions, being able now to drill in to get to the challenge is not an easy thing. So it requires quite a devotion. Now, at the national level, it is a debate because I'm happy that we are moving around there. We are moving around there, and we are receiving reception. And it is evident if you see Mrs. Kariuki here, Dr. Kengori, and others who have been with us in other fora who are coming to hear what we are doing. We have an ear, people will listen. But now, it is getting now to if you look at CBC, the implementation, who are the first people to complain? It was the parents. The parents, because they have to do a little bit more than they are used to. And it's not the children. Actually, I remember I encountered a case where one child was asking the mother who they will vote for. And of course, okay, the mother mentioned the bottom up. And it's like, now what happens to CBC? You know, because there was some debate that, there were some people who were talking negative about that. So you see, the children are enjoying the learning. That's my point, not the politics. The children are enjoying the learning. But the people, the ecosystem to effectuate that learning is not very well prepared. So we need to prepare that ecosystem. The parents, the students, the teachers, and the government itself. And the government has to take deliberate efforts, provide support. For example, even grants. The NRF should be able to come up with calls for research where we are doing research in this area. And I know maybe if we talk about that, if you look at, I've been looking at challenge-based learning. Actually, active learning methodologies in Kenya. It's not very popular. It's not something I've seen a lot of papers and lots of research in. And this is what is missing in our area. That's why the industry is complaining. So we need then to have that ecosystem, national ecosystem that is debating about these things.
Thank you. National ecosystem, we need to look at mindset, time frame, networks, all these planning critical points that have been painted out by Professor Muchiri on this matter. But Professor Muchiri, just a close one, I'm curious. Is there a place for CBL, or there is no place after all in the CBC? So when you look at CBC, can we say we can fit in CBL, or after all, there's no place for it?
There is a place for CBL. And as Dr. Rotich mentioned, CBL is a small part of a bigger picture. So there is a big place. The thing is, we got to think nationally, and I want to challenge anybody here who has ever tried to do some plumbing for you. You have a problem of plumbing in your house. If you are either building or you are doing some repairs, tell me how much effort you got to get a plumber. You keep posting for a plumber in your WhatsApp groups, in your workplace, at your residence place. You can't get a plumber. An electrician to repair, one you can depend on, to repair your fridge. Why is this happening? Because there are gaps that have been left out in our education system. We have not been able to incorporate the learning by doing aspect of it, the ability of training students to be able to solve problems. And one of the ways of solving those, understanding that, is exposing them to these skills. And you cannot teach skills through, let me use the word theory, through theory, in quotes. Because somebody called John Dewey said there is no better thing like a theory in practice. But the theory, the way we know it, which is abstraction of things, instead of hands-on experience, instead of helping people to learn. And that's why experiential learning theory comes in. Where you expose a student to an experience, they see this whole thing of the plumbing, and you are not doing it. And then when they see, they reflect on it. When they reflect, they want to experiment on it. When they experiment, they want also now to understand, but really, how does it work? How does A connect to B? That is abstraction. So the learning itself is, there is a place. So what we need to do is, one, we have to be courageous and take some risks so that we can move on. And the other thing is we have to invest resources. It's not going to be easy. We have to invest resources to be able to do this work. And also resources in terms of training lecturers. KCA, we are doing that. And I thank for the department, the Center for CTLE, because they're doing that. But what about other institutions in this republic? What about KU? What about JKUAT? What about Catholic University? What about Kenya University? What are they doing? What about the technical colleges? By the way, has anybody tried to think about what happens in technical colleges? That a guy was trained plumbing, but he's going to teach and does not have what we call pedagogical content theory, content knowledge, to be able to help these guys connect the practice and to the knowledge, so that they can, and it is in this connection of the practice and the knowledge that innovation emanates from. Otherwise, you emphasize practice, somebody would just know how to shave the head, and that's all. But if you look at, now if you match that and if you connect that one to knowledge, then knowledge and the practice through that process of reflection, abstraction, and experimentation, it leads to innovation. And that's where we want our students to be.
Indeed, that's where we want our students to be, and Professor Gao is on it already. Professor Gao, you ran a class for about 13 weeks or so. And so it was a process, actually, I think so. And could you just highlight some of these processes in a step way so that we can figure out that journey and see whether our lecturers who are part of this audience can also start following your footsteps?
Okay, thank you for that. We started the whole process at the beginning of the trimester. That was very unfortunate because the trimester has just begun. Ogao, you have to handle the CBL. We have to get the partners from the industry. So there was kind of a delay. In an ideal setup, of course, it's good to start way before. But anyway, this was a project. We had to pilot it. So we started with a series of lectures, of course. They need the knowledge. This is visual analytics system architecture. It's a unit that basically doing analytical reasoning using interactive interfaces. So you deal with data, you deal with algorithms, and then visualization to drill into data, and then discover insight. So that's the whole unit. It's a master's course, 35 students, and we were in 7 groups. So they were put in groups, 7 groups. And then as I'm feeding them with the content in that particular area, of course, the team here again, we are running around trying to identify willing partners in the industry. Okay. So I, of course, as a facilitator, had to manage the whole situation in a way that in case it backfires, we don't get the industrial partners, we can run the class in the normal way we do it. Okay. So there's a knowledge part, and then fortunately we get partners, Makueni Referral Hospital and K-Unity. So that's the ideation stage. So they have the big idea. One is in non-communicable diseases, the Makueni Hospital, and then the finance, of course, K-Unity. So the students have to take those 2 ideas and try to come up with what we call a challenge out of it. So all this, of course, is a to and fro process. So there's the industrial partners talking to the facilitators talking to the students, and the students, of course, posing questions to the industrial partners, you know. So the ideation stage happens. So my role basically is to kind of moderate the whole process. You're like a referee, providing resources to the students, you know. At the end of the day, given that it's a visual analytics unit, the core contribution, the way they're going to solve that problem, from my perspective, has to come from the visual analytics knowledge. But it is a problem, of course, that can be approached from diverse angles. But I'm looking at how they can use the content of my unit to solve that particular challenge. So I'm a referee, provide resources, monitoring how they're doing the research. Of course, there's a data part, all those issues they're having with the challenge owners. And then, of course, you also have to be sensitive to the time. The trimester, they have to sit an exam at the end of the day. Okay. So I think it was quite a very involving process, I must say. Fortunately, again, and that's one of the learning things, is that at that particular time when it was being piloted, I only had a unit. So I had enough time to actually do all these things. And then, of course, at the end, you have to arrange now. They've come up with a solution. We had a session where the challenge owners, of course, have to come, look at the solutions they've come up with, evaluate it, give their views, and the students are able to reflect back. But most important thing is CBL provides for, in terms of assessment, it provides for, yes, you can assess the content knowledge, so there's bit for that. We had the cuts, we had the exam. But the beauty also is there are certain skills. For example, the problem-solving skills, the critical thinking skills, communication skills, research skills that you can also assess, okay? And also you can also assess how they adhere to the CBL stages. So all that, we had to look at them and assess them based on that. But again, from my perspective, what I can say is it wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect, but we learned a lot. And I think given another chance, I think it will be done in the best way. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe just to add something, that when we started off, one of the most difficulties we ran into is convincing the dean of the faculty that we can do this, because the main question he had, which was a genuine concern, is how will you assess the students? So we really had to do some work to be able to convince him that there is a way we are able to do this, and assess the students. So those are some of the areas that we were going through.
Thank you very much. I always think that the audience has more questions now that the purpose of this is just to give insight, to create some curiosity among the audience, and then they can ask us some questions, and then from there we can get the conversation evolving and very interactive. I ask Were, is Were around? Help me. Yes, so do you have another mic? If there is a question already running in your mind, this was really a practical-based area. So Professor Bagakas is ready. It's an educationalist. Ask a question. Welcome, Professor.
To hear that experience. Yeah, Professor Gao, how did you the continuous assessment? How did you change those weights? I'm sure since it was a private class, 50% of the marks will have to be final.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah. Is that okay? I respond? Given their certainties, we started a little bit late. What I did was to the initial stages, the first few lectures, of course, it was normal lectures, and we had cuts. We had cuts based on that knowledge, and we had some marks allocated now to the CBL process. So this is a group work. That means whatever marks you assign to group, the individuals are able to get that. So much of the work, the coursework, of course, was shared between the continuous assessment and now the CBL. So in the CBL, of course, it's quite a number of phases. I expected them to deliver some concept, basically the challenge, listen to the challenge owners, and then be able to come up with the challenge itself. And with the challenge, of course, they were able to put it in form of a concept paper. So to me, that's a part that I assessed. And then, of course, the next big milestone was the final presentation. They had to present to staff and to the knowledge owners. So I remember K-Unity was represented there. So they came when the students are presenting, they're able to look at what they've come up with. Ideally, they should also, it didn't work in our case, but there should be a provision for them also to assess the final product, because it should add value to the organization. So they can say, I think this one is good. We didn't provide for that, so it was basically more of an internal assessment. And then if you go into groups again, the group dynamics, there's provision to actually vary the marks between the members. You know, that means you have to, yes, this is a group work, but you have to interact with individual members and get a feel of what each individual's content. You know, it's a visual analytics class, yes, but in the process, what are the things that you learned about, say, visual analytics? So I think there's room for improvement, and I think that's one of the things that came from the findings, and we are working on that to really make it much more elaborate in terms of assessment.
Thank you, Prof. Professor Nywere came first, not in order of anything, then followed by Professor Ngigi. Then, yeah, we can take a number of them. What do you think? Can we just take a number of them, and then that we move faster, and then we can then place them appropriately. So, Professor Nywere, come.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is very interesting. It could have been really interesting to hear the student voices. From what we are hearing, it's more of the fountain of knowledge from the professors coming to the audience. I'm really interested in hearing at least a voice from one of the students, if they are around, not necessarily now, but even outside this formal meeting. Secondly, how did you cater for intellectual properties? Because students formed teams, they came up with a concept paper, and they processed their ideas. Thirdly, what next? Dr. Rotich, so what happens at the end of the project? Do we have carry-throughs? Do we have products that out of this project? Lastly, and in the best interest of our chief guest, with the support of the Vice Chancellor and CEO, and subject to availability of resources, we are establishing here in this university an innovation hub, an innovation center, which will be open to students, undergraduate students, and even our students from KCA Technical, who have great ideas that can go into innovation, can be incubated, and later on they can be commercialized. So we have a plan for that. Through this innovation hub, we'll be able to protect intellectual properties, but also invite even the communities out there who have great ideas to come to KCA Innovation.
The evaluation structure, and because it has been answered, generally I like to pose this question: what should fit in the other? Is it the teaching to fit in the design of evaluation, or is the design of evaluation to fit into the methodology of delivery? Now, my second question is, we teach units as distinct components. The person teaching communication skills will teach communication skills, then another one comes to teach research methodology, another one to teach, and these are so separate items. We never bring it together. Want to ask, how will this bring the content all together? Looking at it this way, if students are doing, let's say, 4 units in a semester, would you have CBL for each unit? And then how much work would that be? So could we have a way whereby we have this project as overhacking across a number of units and even spilling over across semesters? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Professor Jirma, then we go in that order. Give Professor Ngigi, then Professor Jirma, yeah?
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations to Professor Ogao, Mushiri, and Dr. Rotich for this initiative. My concern goes to how do we plug in this idea for effective implementation. I'm thinking of curriculum design-wise, course design-wise, as well as interdepartmental collaborations, because the way you presented the situation is like it's not our one specialization issue. It cut across departments, as well as go externally now to industrial players who own the problem. So at the designing part of it, what structures must we put in place so that we can have meaningful university-industry collaborations? Third, looking at the presentation, this is time-intensive approach. From a workload perspective, what do you have to say about this? Because again, yeah, let me just end there. Good.
Yes, and then Dr. Antara, that way. Professor.
I want to thank you, Professor Ogao and our colleagues Dr. Rotich and Professor Mushiri. Thank you, moderator. Sorry, I came a little bit late. I have two questions. I want us to address the issue of absorption of primary school children, high school, and opening up our infrastructure under CBC. You know, this is homegrown team, and this is homegrown infrastructure for KCA University. And we have monumental responsibility, because in the public sector, we are not able to absorb the number of students who are leaving high schools through primary school. My point is, how do we absorb the number of students who are coming in, even to be sponsored by the government, and they are now pushing private universities to take up the responsibility for admission, and with limited infrastructure, whether they are classes, whether they are lecture halls, whether we have chairs, enough buildings. It is actually very costly. This old building here and what we have there behind us, which has been very expensive, it is not for free. We've taken loan and we are still paying. And some of us who have been with the university, even paying salaries at times has not been very easy. And that's how we have grown within the university, giving our due diligence to serve the university, lecturing our students, and without compromise. And sometimes the check is not coming at the end of the month. So we will appreciate the effort that all of us have done, going through our dark ages. And now we have also responsibility that most of the private universities are now moving to Kitengela. And we have, of course, land there. And sooner, our carrying capacity will be also not easy here. Number two is on the subject of partnerships. Partnership, there's an act called Public-Private Partnership Act created by the government, where private sector can engage the public sector. In terms of benefiting our students from the research, benefiting our students from industrial attachment or interns, we need to expand our partnership program and enhance collaboration. We have discussed this earlier. And when I sit and I see so many of our students, particularly from research, I can see there's a lot of limitation. But there's a lot of scope that exploitation can be done from the public sector, that we need to push our students in terms of industrial engagement, in terms of interns, and there's so much opportunity out there whereby we need the team in front of us to be able to guide us and to connect us for the benefit of our students. I want to thank you, Professor.
Thank you. We can take Dr. Tara and Dr. Mansell in that order so that we get the voices of the ladies.
Thank you, colleagues, for that insightful discussion. I think the approach is very good because the intention is to be able to solve our own problems. And having an understanding of where we are, then it can help us to know where we are going. But then what comes to mind is, this is what we are doing in the classroom, and so what is the outcome? Are you thinking of going beyond this and looking at employability? Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Good morning. So mine is just a question that with the challenge-based learning, do you want us to change the weights, the curriculum of our schools? And when we were in class, do you want us to to bring in now the practical bit, because that is where actually we're doing in class, and we are actually looking at how these students are going to impact the community. Thank you.
Yeah, we can. I think that's enough. Otherwise, we may lose control of the questions. I think we can pick that. I think student voices, that is brought very clearly by Professor Vincent Onywera, and I think that can be dealt with very closely together with intellectual property and what next for Dr. Rotich. So I would request Professor Ogao to talk about student voices, whether he got students around here, and if not, when can he avail the students, or are there any works of students that can be shared? And then Professor Muchiri will talk about intellectual property, and then Dr. Rotich will talk about what next, in that order.
Okay, so Professor Onywera's question, yes, their voices are there. We have a report on that. I think Dr. Rotich can say something on that. We had some focus groups. They shared the experience. I think some of them actually virtually, even right now, we invited them to this forum. On the intellectual property, I think I'll just mention from the data dimension. You know, there's been a lot of sensitization on data protection, especially the last few years. We have the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, and especially some of our units in the School of Technology are very data driven. I must say, K-Unity, we very much appreciate the fact that we are able to let our students. We had 4 groups actually working on the K-Unity challenge. But you see, this is very sensitive data. It's very sensitive data. The expectation nowadays is that if you have consumer data, then you should actually keep a trail. Okay, first of all, you have to declare why you're keeping that data. If you change your mind, you want to use it for other purposes, again, you have to declare that, and you have to keep a trail of what you do with all this data. That's apart from just ensuring that it's secured. But of course, working with them, we were able to keep off really the sensitive data, I think. But I'm looking at it in retrospect, and I'm thinking, going forward, organizations or companies that deal with data, they'll be a little bit more not willing to let, especially outsiders, to, I mean, given the penalties that you're seeing in case you infringe on that, on data protection. So that's going to be a challenge. The good thing is we have, in our structure, KCA University, we have a data protection office. Maybe it's not yet filled, but there's somebody actually who will be talking to us about data. So in such a situation, of course, we can get advice from office. The same will apply, of course, to the industry. So we'll have 2 data protection actually giving advice on how we should proceed with this. So I think that will be taken care of there. But again, I think we just connected to what Professor Onywera asked. I see the need for a liaison officer when you're working with the external partner. I know we have it, I think in Rio, so it will be more active, because we don't just want to work with the industrial stakeholders and then after the challenge it's gone, but we want continuity. So I think there'll be more activity in that office. Yeah.
So Dr. Rotich, you can talk to Professor Onywera on what next. Just highlight, because at least you work with Professor Onywera, so you can give him the details later.
Yes. Yeah, you know, that can be like signing a performance contract because he's listening here. Yeah, after this CPL project, we have actually done two things. One, we have written a white paper, which is going to the funders of the project, which is the UNESCO chairs. So we expect to get some funding for the next phase. However, we have also applied for a second grant to the government of Poland. We hope we'll be successful. So when we become successful, we'll be able to now go to the next phase of looking at how to institutionalize it now in KCA and across curriculums, examinations, and everything else. So that is the way ahead. As an output from this project, we're also publishing a paper from this project. So the paper now is getting ready. I think it should be ready in the next 1 month. It should be ready for publication. Yeah. So I think somebody mentioned about attachment. That was Prof. Jirma there. He mentioned about attachment. I think there's a scope of attachment within CPL. Instead of students going to push paper in organizations, they can also be given as part of their assignments that they need to identify a challenge in that organization, a problem there, and actually be able to come up with solutions and then write a report. Because some of the reports which we have, sometimes I used to go for attachment and the reports were very dry. Yeah, I learned about filing, I learned about all those things. So I think in future now, when we have companies taking our students for attachment, they should also give them a problem to solve, a real problem to solve, and they can be scoped for that within attachment. Then again, Professor Jinma talked about the issue of students and government students. I think that should not really be a very big issue, because is it the people who go to the mountain or the mountain which goes to the people? Yeah, I think if we do our work here very well and produce graduates which the industry will see as very outstanding in terms of being problem solving, very good in communication, teamwork, and creativity, I think then there will be a stampede, people trying to run towards this gate, and then we can expand our infrastructure thereafter. However, in Kenya right now, students, the reason why universities are complaining that others are taking students which are meant for others, I think it's because of failure of creativity. We now have universities producing pharmacists who are now selling medicine produced by other countries instead of producing their own medicine. We have universities producing IT experts whose work sell ERP systems from India. Yeah. So we have universities who produce fashion designers who buy clothes and come and sell from Turkey. I think, so if we have, if it will be said at some point that our students are truly outstanding and very creative, I think then Professor Jerma's question will be dead on arrival. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Rotich.
Something about the intellectual property.
I wanted to engage you in the area of teaching.
Okay.
Teaching and design, because you are a teacher, so you can be able to play some of this. But later on that space, you can talk about that. So Professor Muchiri, can you speak about which one fits into the other one? Is it teaching that fits into design, or is it design that fits into teaching? But at the same time, also speak to how do we plug in for effective implementation? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first of all mention something on the IP, because that was an elephant in the room. And even if you go to literature on challenge-based learning, that is the animal. Because you're going to encounter a lot of difficulties when organizations, asking organizations to give you data for your students to use. How we dealt with it, and Professor Ogawa has alluded to a bit of it, like in Makueni where we had data, health data, is to ask them to go through the data and mask the data, so that we are not identifying individuals, we are not identifying specific places. So in a way you code the data so that even if the student gets the data, the codes have only meaning to the user, the problem owner. So that way, of course, the issue, we cannot downplay the importance of having an IP policy, which KCA has, but also helping the organizations to get over that, because that is going to be a big, from my experiences, can be a very big handicap. Now, when we come to teaching, and those are the problems that I was talking to you about, the challenges, okay? How do we move on? Now, one of the things that universities and lecturers have used is an excuse that QUE stands on the way because there's some percentages they give you. That is false. Open for me one document out of the QUE documents that says you shall have 70% exam and 30% cut. If you get one, please bring it to me. I'll be waiting. There is none. QUE requires you to develop your curriculum and justify your assessment methodologies. I have assessed programs which are 100% practical, but we must see the evidence of that practice, and we must see the resources that support that practice. So you cannot tell QUE that we will have 70% practical and 70% continuous assessment and 30% exam, but when they ask you, okay, show us how this as a continuous assessment you're going to carry it, and then you start producing cards, sit-in cards, I don't know, multiple choice and all those other things, they will see you are jokers. So you have to demonstrate adequately that actually there is need for that, and that kind of assessment is going to be useful in imparting certain knowledge. Now, you got also to connect with the learning outcomes, because the whole source of assessment is the learning outcomes. You want to assess whether the students achieved what you had objected at the objective you had at the beginning when you are teaching them. So the learning outcomes. So you got to demonstrate that there is a link between your assessment and your learning outcomes. So if in my learning outcome I want a student to demonstrate a certain skill, and I take this student to a classroom and give them a piece of paper to answer questions, how will that student be able to go and fix a computer when they are by writing? How will I be able to know they can do that? So you got to connect that. So it is that justification that is required in your learning outcomes, in your resources that you have put together to justify the change in those percentages. So they are not cast on stone. Now, the other issue was the issue of assessment and teaching. But what is teaching? Assessment is part of teaching, am I right? So we cannot demarcate the two. We cannot say one comes before the other. The purpose of design is actually to link your learning objectives with your learning outcomes, where the outcomes are student-focused. Your objectives are you as a lecturer, what you intend to achieve. But at the end of the day, you ask yourself, if I achieve this, what has the student achieved? That is the learning. What are the outcomes on the other end? So your assessment is now to evaluate whether what you did in class with the students, you achieved your outcomes, the learning outcomes. So the design itself, the purpose of curriculum design and development is actually that. So you cannot separate design, teaching. Teaching is part of the design, assessment is inside there, pedagogies are inside there. So it is a big frame that you have to think holistically. There was another question that was raised, Dominic, which was the question which is very pertinent. We teach in silos. So I teach statistics, you teach financial accounting, and Professor Ogao is teaching computer or IT. How then do we employ the challenge-based learning? Is it supposed to be done per unit, or is it supposed to be done collaboratively? The word is collaboratively. As a department, that's why this thing, remember this one we were piloting. So we had to look for people who can quickly believe in us. And thankfully, Professor Ogao had gone through the same process in Europe. So when we approached him, he quickly understood what we wanted to do. but it is supposed to be something that is entrenched, institutionalized in the department, so that at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning when you're doing your plans, you have plans of how you will assess certain skills. We don't just do statistics for fun. Statistics, and we are teaching them accounting. Where do we connect accounting and statistics when we are teaching the student? In the program learning outcomes. So how can we work as a department then collaboratively to be able to have at a certain point these students participate in this challenge-based learning. So we need to have collaboration is critical in that, both at the departmental level among members of faculty, so that this thing can succeed. And I think I talked, how do we plan for this idea for effective implementation? I think that was Professor Ngige, and interdisciplinary collaboration. I've talked about that. What structures do we need in place? The chairs of departments are the critical link in terms of the pedagogy, in terms of the items. So we need that to be connected, and we need the departments. We need buy-in. That's why we are saying that we need to have people to convince, first of all, our lecturers, so that they also see the value, and we are also able to develop. It's not going to happen tomorrow. We have to develop a framework which we are going to implement it. And it's not just challenge-based learning. As I said, it is actually a whole thing. There is active learning methods, there is participatory learning methods. These are methodologies that we can use to impart skills and knowledge to students. So thank you, Dominic.
Thank you very much. We just 2 questions there to finish up. Outcome asked by Dr. Ntara, the link with employability. What's the place of that in this CBL? And then, do we need to change the curriculum? So this one are very short. You can just deal with them, with these ones quickly.
Yes. There is quite a number of reasons why employers are talking about unemployability of graduates. One of them is lack of teamwork, and the other thing is inability to see the big picture. When you look at CPL, all these things are catered for, because CPL actually forces students to work collaboratively, not just with their classmates, but also with the lecturer and the industry players. So CPL actually improves employability to that extent, and more importantly, it took us creativity among the students. We have had a generation of job seekers in this country who arrive at the job place, and they'll be asking every morning, boss, what do I do? That thing will actually die if students are, from a very early age when they join the university, are actually exposed to working creatively and collaboratively. And I think so, if you listen to Professor Ogao, there is actually some other thing which CBL changes. So you see, you do communication skills in year 1. At the end of year 4, you have not done another communication skills course, you go. You do another course in year 2 and you forget. Now, if you listen to Professor Ogao, that he gave out this assignment he gave out, it actually required the students to use knowledge from almost all the other units they learned since they joined the university, because they had to learn, they had to use skills about data mining. I didn't get all the units, but I think the students had to go through knowledge acquired in 9 units to be able to solve that particular challenge they had. So you see, so this kind of reminds students to be able to integrate the things they learn in first year all the way up to where they are in 4th year when the challenge is well framed. So I think that's how it creates, or it brings in, or helps to improve employability of graduates.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Muchiri, do we need to change the curriculum? This is a yes or no? And also the workload, treat those 2.
Yeah, those are tricky ideas, the tricky questions, because the curriculum, yes, we got to. And I know right now the School of Business is looking at their BCom curriculum to incorporate some of those active learning methods and to look at the content so that it is practice-oriented, to incorporate acquisition of knowledge and also the practice. So we indeed need to do that. And so far, I know we worked on entrepreneurship. We also went through that. So there is need, given our background, that when we were designing this curricula, we were not having this knowledge. I think it would call us to go back and relook at what we had decided and have very candid discussions. And I can tell you that the things we are grappling with will actually be solved at the curriculum review, the curriculum design and development process. And unfortunately, what we do is we rush for a workshop for curriculum design. Now, curriculum design and development is a process for the chairs in this house that you will take a whole year or even more to be able to design or even to re-engineer it. So it is not something you need to do in a hurry, because when you go and you rush, you miss out some aspects. So you got to be very well prepared. There is a lot of groundwork to be done. But on the other hand, the issue of the workload, we've got to consider that the student workload. And I like the question Professor Bagak has asked. Okay, when you go take them through this, are you still going to tell them 70% is exam, 30%? So I think the workloads have got to be reviewed and have got to be revised. The same with the members of faculty. I need Professor Oga to make some trips to Kiambu and to Makueni. And and that takes out some of the time he's supposed to be spending on other things. So that needs to be taken into account.
Thank you very much. In the words of Professor Bagakas, there are a lot of moving parts at this stage of this concept. And I would like our guys who are online to post their questions, and those who are in also to just note a question where we'll be collecting so that we can keep this debate ongoing. We can't close it here. We just wanted to spark some curiosity in your mind that KCA is changing and changing also in this direction. So it's upon you to think about it and join the conversation. I want to ask you guys to make the final remark, starting with Professor Gal. Make them very final so that they have the punch of it.
Okay. So I just appreciate, it was an honor for me to be part of this pilot project, and I look forward to many other members of staff, of course, joining in. I like the motto, the CTL motto. It talks about sparking creativity and passion for learning. The way we dealt with students, say 10, 20 years ago, there's a lot that has changed. You can't handle them the same way. And we have to spark, to ignite that creativity. For me, CBL is one of those learning approaches that can bring out that spark of creativity in our students. And again, we are talking about industry-ready students. CBL provides for that. We are tackling real-world challenges. We're interacting with the industry. Definitely when our students leave this place, they know what's happening out there. So I would just request that we take this seriously as a university and go into the implementation stage. Thank you.
Take it seriously from its experience and move to implementation. Professor Muchiri, your final remarks.
Yeah, creativity is a very easy word to mention, but creativity embodies risk, it embodies change and uncertainty. And because of that, people talk about it, but they don't want to engage in it. So what I would ask is we be flexible and adaptable to change so that we may be able to succeed in this realm that we are trying to navigate. Thank you.
Yes. We need to be flexible, adaptable, agile, and we need to be engaged. Your final remarks, Dr. Rotich, on this project.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be in this project. I learned a lot also personally, especially the need for lecturers to develop social capital, because you may want to use challenge-based learning, but whom do you know in the industry? So I think lecturers, sometimes we arrive here at 8 o'clock and leave in the evening. We also need to be networking with the industry so that we can be able to know who is where. And I think this is where our alumni office can also tell us, because we have now an army of alumni, almost thousands of people are now working, most of them senior. And also we have the Office for Partnerships in KCM. So any lecturer who wants to be part of it can also come there, and I think we can be able to facilitate them to structure and identify candidates to help them, or organizations to help them get the challenges for their students.
Thank you very much. Create social capital. Don't just teach. Create social capital, because it will be very important in changing the landscape of your classroom. You need to know the industry that will bring challenge into your class. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say this has been a wonderful one, and I submit back to the Master of Ceremony, Roger Sabongo, to manage the last phase of it. And thank you for listening, and thank you for coming. The debate continues. We are just parking it. The debate continues.
Okay. We leave this to you.
Thank you very much, CPA Dominic Ojwang. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a better round of applause. Thank you. That is our very own moderator who does it at a global level, Dominic Ojwang. We celebrate you. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Dr. Rotich, thank you very much. Professor Mushiri and Professor Ogao. And Dominic, you have done very well, considering that today you are putting your professors on the spot, and you've really done a fantastic job. We want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the close of a very robust discussion, and as CPA Dominic Ojwang has indicated, this conversation continues in the virtual space. Without much ado, I want us to appreciate our guests, and I want to request Professor Bagakas just kindly come close by so that the KCA way. But before we do that, I want us to appreciate them, starting with Professor Bagakas, Professor Onyuera, Professor Damiana, and all our guests in the house. Let's give them, what do we give them? Let's give them Yapapasha. If I say Yapapasha, 1, 2, 3. Yavuma, 1, 2. Thunder, once. Are we together? The KCA style. Together, let's go. Yapapasha, 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 Yavuma, 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 Panda, Panda, Panda. Thank you very much. We celebrate you and we feel deeply honored. Prof. Bagakas, I know you have a flight to catch, and we want to request you just to come upstage and award our guests. I will first call upon Florence, because Florence, you are a wonderful lady who has kept the boss engaged. Please come and receive a token from KCA University. Thank you very much. Our camera crew, I hope you are able to pick that. I will ask Angie to come. Thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause, please. A better one, please. So when you go to K Unity Circle, make sure this shopping bag is very visible. Asante sana. I also want to invite Dr. Kingori for really keeping this wonderful lady, Madam Karaoke, company, so that when you go back, it will be clear that you kept the boss company. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I also now would want to invite the CEO of K Unity Circle, CPA Simon Jenga, our very own alumnus. Let's give him a round of applause. Yeah, so when you engage, please know that your alma mater is a great partner, and we celebrate you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, last but not least, Madam Karaoke, who delivered a very wonderful message as a gift right from our Vice Chancellor and CEO that you take to the ministry. You know, you have to know how to deal with government, right? Yeah, so let's give you a round of applause, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Professor. I think we have come to the end. You can take your seat. And on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the session. We want to thank our viewers. Allow me to invite the Chair of Department, School of Education, Hedwig Ombuda, whom I know is very, very eloquent, very smart, and very brief. Can we give her a round of applause?
And also very short. Thank you, Rogers, for the accolades. Our guests, our DVCs, our directors, deans, chairs of departments, faculty, our dear students, good afternoon. My name, as you have been told, is Hedwig Ombunda, and I'm a chair of department in KCA University. And it is my privilege to move the vote of thanks to all who made it to today's dissemination. First and foremost, we thank CTLE under the leadership of Professor Ngigi. Thank you, Prof, for highlighting the journey that it has taken in education, and we are still going on, learning and improving our pedagogies and embracing new thoughts. Our DVC Rio, Professor Vincent Onywera, thank you so much for collaborating with the CTLE and also for recognizing that KCA is a gold standard. Thank you so much, and we know that with you we are going far in this journey. Our DVC Academics and Student Affairs, Professor Joshua Bagakas, thank you for emphasizing on the importance of partnerships. Indeed, partnerships are the key to change, and also on insisting on the fact that problem-based education is core in realizing any change in the education system. Mrs. Kariuki, thank you very much for coming here as a guest, and also for acknowledging that one of our own has mentored you. You make us know that we are going to benefit a lot from Professor Ngigi. He has mentored many. Thank you also for emphasizing the message from the Director of Higher Education, especially on SBL, because challenge-based learning is a facet of that. Panelists, we are so grateful because you took your time and you shared your knowledge and expertise on CBL. I'm sure most of us now know what CBL means. We know the challenges and the opportunities, and that we are going to try in our individual classes to use CBL. And to our students, thank you very much for coming to attend this session. Asanteni.
Thank you very much. Can we give a better round of applause, please? Thank you very much. And just one final announcement is tomorrow we are having a lecture at 2 p.m. Our faculty, you're most invited. There will be a lecture to be delivered by Professor Opara, who is a Carnegie scholar. And this communication had been sent via email, so kindly purpose to attend. I want us to appreciate, you know, we have 3 DVCs, complete set, right? but there is only one lady among them. And when the VC is not there, the gentlemen always sandwich her. Can we celebrate her in a special way? Let's give her a round of applause, Professor Damiana. Thank you, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the tail end. Those always who move vote of thanks as masters of ceremonies, master of ceremonies, we are always used to the idea that we are never appreciated. We appreciate ourselves. Can you give me a round of applause, please? Thank you very much. With that, I want to invite Dr. Nanjala, Dean Rio, to close it off with a word of prayer.
So thank you, Rogers. May we stand up for closing prayer. So in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Almighty God, we started this assembly with you, and we are closing it with you. Thank you for making this meeting a success. We would not have done it without you, because many are our plans, but it is you who establishes them. May the things we have learned today stir our hearts, and may we put them into action. May what we have learned impact our lives, families, friends, and the rest of the world positively. In Jesus' name we believe and pray. May our grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, love of God, and the leadership of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll allow our guests to leave. There is going to be some form of interactions. But then we are having the media here. We want to thank our media for being here. Prof. Bagakas will start with you briefly so that you're able to address the media. Our online viewers, asanteni sana for keeping it here. God bless you, and God bless KCA University. Thank you.